What if I told you that not needing women will make them want you more? That refusing a promotion could give you more power than accepting it? Today, I'm going to share 7 truths that 99% of men believe are right, but are actually completely backwards. These aren't just theories from some self-help book. These are battle-tested principles that have been hidden in plain sight for over 2,000 years. And the men who understand these secrets, they don't chase success. Success chases them. While other men are desperately trying to prove their worth, these men have discovered something far more powerful. The power of reverse psychology, the strength of strategic weakness, the attraction of deliberate detachment. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Sometimes the best thing you can do is nothing at all." This is reverse thinking. When conventional logic leads to failure, the opposite path leads to success. Why do men who aren't active on dating apps get more matches? Why do those who don't text constantly get remembered more? The answer lies in understanding human psychology at its deepest level. But here's what most men don't realize. They're playing a game where the rules are completely backwards. The men who win are the ones who understand that less is more, that absence creates presence, that silence speaks louder than words. By the end of this video, you'll understand why failing on purpose is more powerful than trying to succeed. And why refusing attention attracts more attention than begging for it. But first, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that the people you want most are the ones who seem to need you least? That's not a coincidence. That's psychology. And once you understand it, everything changes. So buckle up, because what you're about to learn will flip everything you thought you knew about attraction, success, and power completely upside down. Truth number 1. Most men think success will attract women. But what if I told you that deliberately failing in certain areas actually gives you more power? Take this CEO who deliberately refused to appear on Forbes magazine to maintain his mystery. While others chase recognition, he chose invisibility. Epictetus taught that we only control our actions, not the outcomes. When you don't need the outcome, you become truly free. Here's a real example. A man turns down a promotion to have time for his side business. Everyone thinks he's crazy. 6 months later, his side business makes more than his salary ever could. This is the psychology of scarcity. What's hard to get becomes more valuable. When you're not desperate for success, success becomes desperate for you. But here's where most men go wrong. They try to impress everyone, accept every opportunity, become the yes man. The result? They lose their uniqueness, their power, their mystery. Notice how the man who's always available gets taken for granted, while the selective one commands respect. The practical application? Learn to say no. Choose opportunities that align with your values. Refuse what doesn't serve your greater purpose. Sometimes saying no is the most powerful way to say yes to what really matters. This is strategic failure. You fail at being everyone's favorite, so you can succeed at being your authentic self. Remember, you don't attract what you chase. You attract what you become. And what you become is determined by what you're willing to walk away from. Truth number 2. Why do people who post less on social media have more followers? Why do those who don't text constantly get remembered more? The answer lies in strategic invisibility, the art of being selectively present. Marcus Aurelius said, "Be like a rocky promontory on which the waves constantly break. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest." There's a crucial difference between presence and availability. Presence is about quality. Availability is about quantity. Watch what happens at any social gathering. The person trying to talk to everyone gets forgotten. The person having one meaningful conversation becomes magnetic. In dating, in business, in life, the principle is the same. Scarcity creates value. Mystery creates fascination. But here's what most men do wrong. They become attention seekers instead of attention magnets. They're always on, always available, always trying to prove something. Attention seekers are surrounded by people, but feel empty. Attention magnets attract genuine interest without trying. The practical application? Master the 48-hour rule. Don't always be the first to respond. Quality over quantity in all communications. Create spaces of silence in your life. Let people wonder what you're thinking, what you're doing, who you're with. Remember, absence makes the heart grow fonder, but presence makes it grow bored. Master the art of strategic invisibility and watch how the world starts chasing you. Truth number 3. What if I told you that refusing to help others is sometimes the best way to actually help them? Take the father who refuses to give his adult son money, forcing him to become independent. Cruel, or the greatest gift he could give? Seneca wrote, "Every man needs to be saved, but not necessarily by you." This is the difference between enabling and empowering. When you constantly rescue people, you rob them of the opportunity to grow stronger. You create learned helplessness instead of resilience. Here's the brutal truth about the nice guy syndrome. Men think that helping equals love, but respect comes from boundaries, not from being helpful. Notice the difference. The man who's always available for help gets friend-zoned. The man who sets boundaries gets romantic interest. But here's the key. You're not being cruel. You're being wise. There's a difference between refusing to help and refusing to enable. The 3 techniques. Redirect them to find their own solutions. Empower them with knowledge, not actions. Set boundaries with kindness, but firmness. Give a man a fish. He eats for a day. Teach him to fish. He eats for life. But most men give fish because it feels good in the moment. The hardest part isn't saying no. It's dealing with the guilt, the manipulation, the accusations of being selfish. But remember, you're not responsible for other people's emotions. You're responsible for your own integrity. True compassion isn't giving people what they want. It's giving them what they need to grow. And sometimes, what they need most is for you to step back and let them find their own strength. Truth number 4. Why are the strongest men often those who admit they don't know everything? Watch what happens when a leader admits he doesn't know something versus when he pretends to have all the answers. Who do you trust more? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are." Knowing what you don't know is the beginning of wisdom. There's a huge difference between toxic masculinity and authentic masculinity. Toxic masculinity hides emotions and pretends to know everything. Authentic masculinity is honest about limitations, open to learning, and comfortable with not having all the answers. And guess what? People trust him more, respect him more, and are genuinely attracted to his authenticity. But here's what most men fear. They think vulnerability makes them weak. They confuse ego with confidence. They believe admitting ignorance is admitting defeat. But there's a massive difference between ego and confidence. Ego is fragile and defensive. Confidence is flexible and curious. The practical application? Practice saying, "I don't know, but I'll find out." Admit mistakes quickly. Ask for help when you need it. Show genuine curiosity about others. Let people see your learning process, not just your achievements. Remember, strength isn't about having no weaknesses. It's about acknowledging them, learning from them, and growing through them. That's what real men do. Truth number 5. What if I told you that deliberately creating difficulties for yourself is the best way to grow stronger? Cold showers when you could have warm ones. Intermittent fasting when food is available. Difficult workouts when you could stay comfortable. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" This is the psychology of anti-fragility, becoming stronger through stress, not despite it. Voluntary hardship prepares you for involuntary suffering. Most people live in their comfort zone, predictable, safe, but stagnant. The growth zone is uncomfortable, challenging, but transformative. Think about it. The person who trains with heavy weights gets stronger. The person who avoids discomfort gets weaker. But here's the key. It has to be voluntary. Chosen hardship builds character. Forced hardship builds resentment. When you choose your struggles, you control your growth. When life chooses your struggles, you're just surviving. The practical application: set weekly challenges, monthly goals that push your limits. Create systems that force growth. Public speaking when you're introverted. Learning new skills that challenge you. Taking calculated risks that scare you. Each challenge you conquer makes the next one easier. Each comfort you reject makes you more resilient. Remember, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but only if you choose it. Become your own worst enemy and watch how no external enemy can touch you. Final truth. Why do people who seem to not care get the most attention? Why does detachment create attraction? Watch any social situation. The person trying hardest to be noticed gets ignored. The person who seems content alone becomes the center of attention. Epictetus taught, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." This applies to everything: money, status, even relationships. There's a massive difference between neediness and independence. Neediness repels. Independence attracts. People want what they can't have. When you're not desperate for their attention, they become desperate for yours. But here's where most men go wrong. They overinvest in outcomes. They care too much about results and not enough about the process. This creates desperate energy that pushes people away. They can smell the neediness, the attachment, the fear of loss. True detachment isn't about not caring. It's about caring deeply about the process while being unattached to specific outcomes. The practical application: care about doing your best work, but don't be attached to recognition. Enjoy conversations, but don't need specific responses. Be fully invested in your own growth, but hold your opinions, relationships, and even your identity lightly. This gives you the ultimate power, the power to walk away. When you can genuinely walk away from anything, you have true freedom. Remember, hold everything lightly: your success, your relationships, even your own opinions. When you stop grasping, life starts flowing toward you. So there you have it. 7 counterintuitive truths that flip everything you thought you knew about attraction, success, and power completely upside down. Strategic failure over desperate success. Invisibility over attention-seeking. Boundaries over rescue missions. Vulnerability over fake strength. Voluntary hardship over comfort. Detachment over neediness. But knowledge without action is worthless. So here's your challenge. Pick one of these 7 principles and commit to practicing it for the next 7 days. Just one. Don't try to master them all at once. Maybe it's strategic failure, saying no to something everyone expects you to say yes to. Maybe it's practicing invisibility, staying off social media for a week. Whatever you choose, commit fully. Then come back and share your experience in the comments. Let this community know how it changed your perspective, your relationships, your life. If this video opened your eyes to a different way of being a man, hit that subscribe button. We're building a community of men who choose wisdom over weakness, authenticity over approval.